Hello, everyone. This is episode 3 of the Parks Academy, where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige,
My name is Steven.
and today we are continuing our mini series about our ideal day in each park.
Today we're going to be talking about a great park, Hollywood Studios. Maybe one of the smaller parks in the Walt Disney World property, but nonetheless, it is a great space, lots of cool things there, and we are going to talk about attractions, entertainment, dining, and things to do, just kind of some random things that are fun, little secrets maybe. So we're just going to jump right on into it. Paige, why don't you kick us off with attractions? Get right in and talk about some of those attractions you like so much.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things about Hollywood Studios is it is probably the park that has changed the most in the last 20 or so years since I've been going to Walt Disney World. So we obviously have new lands like Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. And some of my favorite rides are in those areas. So in terms of attractions, when I go to Hollywood Studios, there's a couple that I absolutely have to ride. I'm going to start with the old school ones. Star Tours is right up there for me in one of the attractions that I absolutely have to ride.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Star Tours in our very first episode when we were doing the comparison of rides in Anaheim versus Orlando. And we both came to the conclusion that the one in Orlando and in Hollywood Studios is far superior just based on the outside of it and that whole experience, seeing the AT-AT and kind of walking into Ondor like that. And I think they also have a stage for shows. So it's a great ride. It's definitely a cannot miss.
And because it can be so different every time you see it, it's just an attraction that every time you go, you could get a completely different experience. And so I think for that reason, especially, it's worth making sure that you hit it every time you go to Hollywood Studios.
One of the cool things too about that ride is at the end of it, you actually walk out into this really cool gift shop that's almost themed after Tatooine. So it's cool. It's a Star Wars fan's dream. And obviously I have a lot to say about Galaxy's Edge. We'll get there.
Yeah, so the next ride that is a little bit older than some of the other ones on my list would be Toy Story Mania. And I mentioned this one in the first episode also because I am super competitive. So whenever I get to compete on a ride, that is just the best for me. I love scoring points, getting to compete against other people in the ride vehicle. So Toy Story Mania, even though they have since changed where you enter, it actually fits so much better in Toy Story Land now that they've built all around this ride. It really feels really cohesive, and it's such a fun attraction that, again, every time you do it, you get to feel like you're competing and really making your experience what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool area. They had like that Pixar walkway which was interesting about it. And for those of you who may not know, that older brick-laden Pixar walkway area was actually designed after the studios in Emeryville, which I've actually had the pleasure of going to a handful of years ago. And that whole area is just really, really cool. Last time we were there and it was open, it was a Incredibles meet and greet area. And it's just cool. Yeah, the whole Toy Story land, it's a cool space. That's for sure. And Toy Story Mania is a fun ride. It's never gets old.
Right, it's so fun, and we get really competitive with each other on that ride, so that's always a good time. Um, the next one that I would say you absolutely have to do, and these are 2 newer rides. So the one would be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I think the best part about this ride is that I really did not know what to expect going in because I tried to stay away from as many spoilers as possible on the internet before I rode it the first time. And the line did end up being kind of long, so just be prepared to wait for this ride a little bit because it is still fairly new, especially compared to the other rides in Hollywood Studios. So you definitely will have to wait. But this took the place of the Great Movie Ride, which was probably my favorite ride in Hollywood Studios. And I was super disappointed when they removed it, but replacing it with Mickey Mouse's very first ride in any of the parks is super special, and they did such a good job. I love the new animation and that style of the new Mickey Mouse cartoon. So I think this ride is so well done and it's so unique. It's such a great modern ride, and you can really see that Disney has kind of found this new niche with these new types of rides.
Like the trackless ride system?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's just such a fun, unique experience, especially if you haven't been on any of these newer Disney rides like Rise of the Resistance or the Ratatouille adventure. This Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is one of the modern rides that is absolutely worth the long wait.
Yeah, that new kind of trackless ride technology, it's super cool, and it's actually been around a lot longer, I think, than people think. The Winnie the Pooh ride in Tokyo is actually on a trackless ride like that. And a handful, and like the Ratatouille ride was in Paris for quite a while before it came over to the States.
Right.
But yeah, Mickey and Minnie's is cool. I'm glad that I got to ride the Great Movie Ride at least one time before it shut down. And I know that a lot of people had some pretty heavy gripes about it shutting down when it did. But Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, or Railway, Railroad, whatever.
Close enough.
It's a worthy replacement for sure, and it's a lot of fun. Pretty big surprises in the queue, and it's super family friendly, which is great. Little ones can definitely ride it.
Get the song stuck in our head all the time. It's very catchy too.
For sure. I mean, it's better than Small World, but it's a good song, and it can grind on you though after a little while. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, but it's fun to just sing it randomly.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the song from Inside Out with the triple dent gum,
where
it just kind of gets stuck in your head.
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. So my last attraction that I would say I absolutely have to do, and I know Steven does not agree with how much I love this ride, but Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run to me is my favorite part of Galaxy's Edge. And I said it before, I'm not the biggest Star Wars person. I had actually never really seen Star Wars until I met Steven. But this is another ride where, depending on how competitive you are and which roles you get and the other people in your ride vehicle, this ride can be really, really awesome and fun and competitive, or you can just crash into a bunch of stuff and have a really bumpy ride. So every time you get on this, it is completely dependent on who your pilot and co-pilot are as to how the ride actually goes. So this one, for me, if I have some level of control in being either the pilot or the co-pilot, my control issues are out there on our podcast. If I have some
Right.
level of control on this ride, it is up there in my top rides, and even my top experiences for Disney, because it is such a fun ride when you do it well.
It is a fun ride, and I have a lot to say about Galaxy's Edge, Batuu, and I will get to it. I wouldn't give you any flack for liking the ride. It's fantastic. I think the thing that's interesting to me about it is that it's kind of a dream to get on the Millennium Falcon and fly it. But the fact that Hondo is the main character in that story is just weird. I first was introduced to him like everyone else in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, if you kind of go into that canon. And he's fine. I mean, he's definitely a minor character in those shows. And he's cool, but I don't know. The fact that he was kind of the main key with the Millennium Falcon, and of course Chewbacca's in there, and that's fun, but
Right.
it's kind of weird that he's in there. So I love it. It's a fun ride. I don't have any issues with it at all. I kind of wish that there was different sorts of, well, I guess the only thing that I would say is what I wish about it is that there were more storylines. There's only so many coaxial cables you can get, but the thing is that the ride is so unique in that you are actually flying it like a simulator. And everything that you do makes a difference, that I don't think that they could come up with dozens of different campaigns that you'd have to run
Right.
without putting in billions of dollars into that technology
Right.
and everything that goes with that. So, yeah, I mean, it's great. And I don't really want to spend too much time on it because like I said, I have a ton to say about Galaxy's Edge, and that is, spoiler horn, my all-time favorite space to be. I mean, I would set up shop and work there if I could, like on my laptop, and just answer emails and hang out all day there. It's so great.
Oh, you could have spent our whole day there when we went.
I tried to. I really tried to.
Well, there's a lot to do and see
Yeah.
just in the Galaxy's Edge area, so it's understandable. And I see what you're saying about Hondo. That was his name. I was
Hondo
making sure I said that
Ohnaka.
correct. Yeah. Because I legitimately had no idea who he was when I got in that line and on that ride, and I wish there had been some Han Solo in that ride if I'm getting on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, but the thing with Batuu is that it takes place in between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
So it's before anything happens in The Rise of Skywalker with
Right.
Ben Solo and Rey and all that. So it kind of has this sort of canonical storyline that is stuck in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, we have sort of these characters that may not feel like they fit, but I think a lot of people were kind of irritated that Galaxy's Edge wasn't original trilogy based when it first came out. And I can understand that for sure. I mean, that's a big part of what so many people love about Star Wars. But it fits and it's modern and people really like it.
Right. Well, and I think it's difficult too if you start having, like, what age would they have Han Solo be if they incorporated him in the park? If you have Rey and Kylo Ren walking around, I mean, they can't all be the same age that they were in their films.
Right.
So there
And
has to be some sort of cohesion with when this in the timeline takes place, like you said. So I understand. Han Solo is my favorite character, and I got to drive the Millennium Falcon, and I didn't even see Han Solo. So that would be my only complaint.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. As far as attractions go, though, I don't want to say there's not a lot of rides.
Well, but I just stole the majority of them.
And yeah, you really did. I'm going to go ahead and say that one thing I really got to do when I'm in Hollywood Studios is the Tower of Terror. It's a great ride. You've never been on it before?
You're correct.
Yeah,
I have never once ridden the Tower of Terror, but there is a slight backstory to that I'll share in a minute.
That's the most wild thing. In Anaheim, they restructured the entire Tower of Terror to Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, which is really, really fun. I rode it for the first time a couple of years ago, and it's super cool. But the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is iconic. I remember riding it in California for the first time, and there's a slight difference between the ride operations in Orlando versus Anaheim, just especially in the experience when you kind of have that beginning narration and are going through before you kind of get to the drop. And it's such a cool ride, and for me, it's definitely a must-do. I also really like Rock and Roller Coaster quite a bit. Those whole areas in Sunset Boulevard are just, they're really, really cool. And for me anyway, they're two pretty thrilling rides within the parks that you just don't really get typically at a Disney property. And even as a younger kid, when I was thinking about Disney World and looking up, the different rides and stuff that were there long before I went, Rock and Roller Coaster was pretty high up on my list of rides. It looked really, really cool to me. I could kind of take or leave the Aerosmith music.
Oh, that's my favorite part.
I could take it or leave it, but the ride is super fun. And I do like a indoor roller coaster. It's kind of Space Mountain-y, but with Steven Tyler's mouth. So
That's true.
yeah, you've been on that one.
I have not been on that ride since like 2012-ish. I think
Yeah.
it was my senior year music field trip was the last time I rode that ride. I just, those fast takeoffs at the beginning is just a lot for me. And the Tower of Terror, I have not ridden that ride before. One, because I don't like big drops. I get really freaked out. I have asthma and I take my inhaler before I do scary roller coasters. It's just a thing. and I've never once done the Tower of Terror. But I think what put the nail in the coffin for me was when my brother and my dad rode this ride, and my brother was so scared when he came off. My dad was laughing hysterically, and I was like, that's it. I'm never going on. If Chad was that scared, I'm never, ever, ever going on. So
it's not that
thanks
bad,
for that,
though.
dude.
It's really not that bad, and I think it's a lot of fun. But you could definitely ride Rock and Roller Coaster next time we go,
I think,
because you rode Incredicoaster in California.
well, right. And
you
once
really
I
liked
get
it a lot.
past the takeoff, I absolutely love the ride. Like, I can go fast, upside down, twists and turns, corkscrews, and I love Aerosmith. They're one of my favorite bands. I love 80s music. So it's not even the ride as a whole, it's just the takeoff for me that is so abrupt that it makes me so anxious when I watch the countdown with the lights. I've been in this line several times in the ride queue, and then I just pop off and say I'm going to wait at the exit, which I've actually done with the Tower of Terror also a couple times.
You did that with me last time, where you bailed and got in a real elevator.
Well, right. And I literally said to the cast member, are you positive that this is a normal elevator and you're just taking me back to the exit, because I just didn't want to take any chances.
Yeah, I'm going to get you on Tower of Terror at some point.
I think I could get on the Guardians of the Galaxy version.
Yeah, that one is a lot of fun. There's not really a lot of anxiety that
leading up to it.
Yeah, it's not really baked into the ride. So we'll talk about that one on another episode, but it's a lot more fun.
Well, isn't there also loud 80s music?
Yeah. And
So,
Chris Pratt's kind of doing his thing, and
so if you blare loud 80s music in my ears, I may be able to get through anything.
Yeah, Rocket's running his mouth. It's a different kind of ride.
Right. So I think I could do it.
Okay.
Well, someday.
Cool. So I really like those two rides a lot. And since we're on attractions, I'm just going to talk quickly too about how much I absolutely love Rise of the Resistance. I have ridden that ride 3 times, and that may not seem like a lot, but trust me, it is, with how much pain you have to go through to get on it most of the time. The first time I rode it, we went to, and I talked about this before, I think, but we went to Anaheim like a couple weeks after Rise of the Resistance had opened, and we were lucky enough to get on it, but that was when you had to basically be in line an hour before park opened so you can get in and then get your boarding pass ready to go and check into the ride. Really, really stressful stuff, and I was able to procure that twice. But last time we were in Hollywood Studios, it was my first time actually going into Galaxy's Edge East. And around 1 o'clock, we had the opportunity as well to get a boarding pass for Rise. And I have a video of it that's just hilarious. But we are sitting in Grand Avenue, kind of near Pizza Rizzo's. And we're sitting at these tables, and everyone is just waiting and waiting and waiting to get their boarding pass. And once everyone gets it, there is just like this sea of screams and cheers and high fives and like grown man tears.
It was hilarious.
It was awesome. So I love that ride. I can't get enough of it. I went full media blackout for it when it first opened, so I didn't see anything about it in Orlando at all. And just being able to go on it for the first time was such an experience. The line itself, like, holy moly, it is fantastic. Such a cool ride.
Yeah, that ride also very surprising, because there's so much novelty about it. So many things that have not been done before in other rides here in the States that we got to see and experience for the first time. So I can understand the hype around Rise of the Resistance, and all of the pieces of it with the virtual queue and everything. But now there's no virtual queue anymore.
Right. The line is horrible. Last time I went on it, I rode alone because you weren't able to ride at the time.
Yeah, we went for our baby moon.
Yeah.
So there were several rides I unfortunately couldn't do, being 6 or 7 months pregnant.
Right. But I was able to go on it with a family who had never been on it before. And that was really, really cool for me because, again, spoilers. So if you haven't had a chance to ride it yet, and if you are on a kind of blackout, just skip forward a little bit. But when you're on the transport and it opens up to the room full of stormtroopers, it was so fun for me just to go to the opposite side of the transport and just kind of observe everyone's reactions to it. And then just kind of watch when we were in the room with Kylo Ren and the Resistance rescue mission. Just it's really fun to watch people for the first time on that ride. So it's like joy all the way down being on that thing.
Well, right, and there's so many pre-shows, like, you go from room to room to room thinking, like, "Oh, is this the ride? Is it starting? Is this where I get on the ride vehicle?" So,
Right.
I think it's just so surprising that being able to experience it with someone who's never done it before is just so cool to see their response to it.
Right. So I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in Hollywood studios that's worth doing. I know that a lot of people love Slinky Dog Dash. I haven't been on it yet. And the reason is because I didn't want to wait in that line for a roller coaster that I'm not going to say it's for kids, but it just didn't seem like I needed to
But
go
it
on it.
appeals to families, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
because and we'll ride it, I'm sure, the next several times that we go now that we have little one.
Right.
But, yeah, we just as adults, we were like, we just haven't spent much time in Toy Story Land. We haven't eaten in Toy Story Land. Other than Midway Mania, we haven't.
We did the alien swirling saucers, and that was kind of
Oh,
fun.
well, that was just a
That
fun
was
thing.
cool.
I just giggled the whole time because I love those kinds of rides.
Yeah. So we haven't really done that, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff there. I mean, there's cool rides there, and the other thing too is I just wasn't willing to wait like 90 to 120 minutes for a short Slinky Dog roller coaster.
Right, and I think the thing too about Hollywood studios is you really do have to pick and choose what you're willing to wait in long lines for, or else you'll just be waiting in line all day because most of the bigger rides in Hollywood studios always have a decently long line because there's not as many rides as somewhere like Magic Kingdom, where the crowds kind of are all over the place. With Hollywood studios, you have the big rides, and the older rides that are big rides are usually a little bit better, whereas the Galaxy's Edge lines are always really long, the Slinky Dog Dash line's really long, the Runaway Railway's really long, because those are the newer rides, and they're all fairly new within the last 5 years, right? All 4 of those have been in the last 5 years, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah.
So for people who haven't been to Disney in 5 years, they potentially haven't been on any of those 4 rides, and so that explains kind of those long waits. You have to pick
Right.
and choose.
I'll tell you one thing though. You can do single rider on a lot of those suckers, and it is great. I basically walked on to Smugglers Run when we were there last time because I
And
did
that would
single
be
rider.
so worth it.
Yeah, except when you get stuck with a terrible family who doesn't know how to play.
Well, that's true.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great attractions there, of course, and I think we pretty much talked about almost all of them. So I say with that, we just bounce right into entertainment. I'm gonna let you go first because I kind of know what you're gonna say, and I don't really think I have anything. So
Well, you're not a big show guy.
No.
As you said last time, for me, the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular is my favorite show in Hollywood studios of the shows and entertainment there. I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't seen it, but it is a fun little quirky show with a twist. And so I think, especially for people who like Indiana Jones, who like adventure, who like behind the scenes, Hollywood style things, I think this show it's thrilling, it's exciting. It opens with the classic boulder scene and the switching of the gold. And so you just kind of from the get-go feel like you're being transported backstage in a Hollywood film. And so I think that one for me is a must do when I go to Hollywood studios.
yeah, it is cool. I don't really have a whole lot to go on about it. Just because I've seen it once and I liked it enough. But yeah, I'm just shows just don't really do it for me as much. And I don't really want any kind of audience participation either, which that show has a little bit of. I mean, even we talked a little bit about Star Tours, right? And over in Star Tours, there's a stage where Darth Vader will come out and they'll talk to the audience. And as soon as that happens, I walk away because I just don't want to, I don't want them talking to me at all. The only show that I haven't seen in Hollywood Studios, but I have seen it because it's in Disneyland, is Fantasmic. I can't imagine it's too different, although I've heard a lot of people say that the Fantasmic in Disneyland is better. I can't speak to that because I haven't seen the one in Orlando yet, but I think next time we are able to see it and it's open, we got to check that one out because I'm interested in what's going on with that one.
And we didn't see the one in Disneyland, did we? I don't think I did.
We did not.
So I've only seen
we walked
one.
we walked by it because
Right.
you can walk like right by it. It's
Right.
right there in Rivers of America. But
Right. Whereas in Florida, in Walt Disney World Hollywood Studios, you have to kind of go off the beaten path to the like amphitheater where Fantasmic is held, and so it's not just something that's right smack dab in the middle of the park that you're gonna pass it at night when it's happening. That's actually my grandma's favorite show. She loves to see that one. Her favorite park is when it was back called MGM. She loved going to MGM. She loved Fantasmic. So that one's got a special place in my heart. But the other show that I saw for the first time when we went on our baby moon while Steven was hanging out in Galaxy's Edge, since I couldn't ride those rides, I got myself a lemonade, I think, or some drink, and went into for the first time in forever, Frozen sing-along. Now, let me preface this by saying Steven and I are not Frozen people.
no way.
Like, we just really don't like Frozen.
We walked out of the first movie when we were dating.
Like, I'm so sorry to everyone out there who loves the movie Frozen and your kids watch it 800 times a day.
But it's a pass for us.
Well, we're probably going to just not tell our daughter that Frozen exists and
Right.
see how long it takes for her to figure out that there are these other two princesses and a snowman. But all that being said, I went into this show seeking air conditioning and a break, and I laughed so hard, and I walked out wishing I had seen that show again because it was hilarious. The two cast members who are sort of the MCs of the show were cracking jokes the whole time. Adult jokes, mind you, that probably went over the heads of all of the children in the room. But it was so funny and it was engaging with the audience. It seemed like they were ad-libbing a lot of their lines, but I'm sure most of them were scripted. They just seemed so natural. And the sing-along part, Steven would have been totally miserable during that.
I would have rolled out so fast.
Yeah, he is. When the audience starts singing or anyone starts singing, he just kind of like, it's like, I'm done with that.
I don't even watch movies and TV shows singing in them.
Well, sometimes I watch them and you, by the transitive property, watch them, but that's about it.
Right.
That's about it. But this show actually was hilarious. So if you're not a Frozen person, give it a chance. Air conditioning, there's bubbles at the end. It's a fun time. It was a fun time. I would totally do it again.
Yeah. Cool. Like I said, I don't really have anything shows-wise. There is one thing, it's kind of like a thing to do, sort of, but one thing that's kind of my jam is the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy.
Oh, that was fun.
It was kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting it. I thought it was going to be just another one of those things where we just sit in the AC, but
Yeah, we
It's
kind of
kinda
popped in
cute.
one day because it just seemed like something to do, and it was neat. I mean, it was the animatronic Lightning McQueen, and it was. I mean, I was on my phone a lot of it because we were sitting in the back, but it was neat. I didn't have any qualms.
and I think with kids, they would really enjoy it. I think it was really engaging for families. So if you've got little ones, definitely check out the Lightning McQueen show.
Totally. Let's talk dining.
Ooh, Dine.
So I don't really have too much to say about dining. I feel like I don't have much to say at all. Actually, wait, no, I have a lot to say.
Yeah, you're
It's just in Galaxy's Edge.
Right, you're forgetting Galaxy's
Right,
Edge.
because I'm thinking, Hollywood Brown Derby, the Hollywood and Vine, the 50s Primetime Cafe, like I could take it or leave it. But you give me a table in Docking Bay 7 or at Oga's, and I am so happy. So, how do we want to do this? Do you want me to just go on and on about Galaxy's Edge for a while?
So why
Do
don't
you
you
want to
kick it
talk
off
or
with
what?
Galaxy's Edge? But what I will just throw in my 2 cents with this is I have to start my day with a Ronto wrap at Ronto Roasters in
Right.
Galaxy's Edge, because I know when I'm going to Hollywood Studios with Steven, we are heading straight to Galaxy's Edge in the morning.
Yep.
And so while he's doing whatever he wants to do and get pictures of the stuff before it gets too crowded, I'm going to get myself a Ronto wrap from Ronto Roasters. They are really, really good. It's like a pita bread with what is it, a sausage, a pork sausage?
Yeah, it's like a pork sausage, and there's
With
egg and stuff in
egg
there. It's
and
really good.
cheese, and so it's like a breakfast sandwich, but it seems like very Star Warsy. And so I would just highly recommend, if you're a breakfast person or you want to eat something in the morning to last you through the day at Hollywood Studios, a Ronto wrap is a really good way to start your day. And the blue milk in Galaxy's Edge is also delicious. I like the blue milk at Oga's because it comes with that cookie on top.
Yes, the bantha cookie.
So, yep, that's my 2 cents for Galaxy's Edge food.
Okay, so I make no have no secrets about the fact that I'm a really big Star Wars fan, and Galaxy's Edge for me is like a dream come true. I love it so much, and the food there is fine. It's fine. I do like a Ronto wrap a lot. Their lunch one's really good. But for me, the best thing about dining there is Oga's Cantina by a landslide.
Mm-hmm.
Their food is fine. It's weird. It's not really gonna fill you up because it's not a sit down meal. It's more
Right,
like
it's like snacks.
it's more like tapas. You know, we do things a little differently here.
Right.
But the drinks at Oga's are so good. The first time we went, I think I had the fuzzy tauntaun because I really just want. I mean, it's the one that kind of numbs your mouth a little bit.
Yeah, I was not at all trying that one.
So good. And then last time we went, I asked the cast member or waitress what I should get, and she recommended a Dagobah Slug Slinger, and that was really good. It was kind of like a citrus juice cocktail that was based off of Dagobah, of course. And every time I've been there, it's such a great experience. I have a little DJ Rex figure on my desk for work that I ended up paying too much money for on eBay because I couldn't find it at Target when they released them. And yeah, it's great. And the food is, like I said, I mean, the food at like a Docking Bay 7 is good. There's nothing really necessarily that I would say when I go to Hollywood Studios, I have to eat at X, Y, and Z because the food is so good. It's more like I have to eat there because the experience is so killer, and you just do not get that anywhere else.
Right. And I think for all of the places that we ever eat in Hollywood Studios as a whole, that is pretty much what we go for. It's not for the specific food items in Hollywood Studios as much as it is what vibe do we want. Like, I've always wanted to try the sci-fi dine-in theater. That is not at all Steven's jam. So someday we'll have to do that. But the 50s style drive-in sounds so appealing to me, and I know that it's gonna be just a mediocre burger.
Yeah,
I know that going in.
I think I would do it. It doesn't. Something about it doesn't really appeal to me, but it appeals to me more than the 50s Primetime Cafe does.
Right.
So, and I love a burger.
Well, yeah.
So I think I could hang there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like we haven't actually really eaten at that many places.
Well, we usually end up eating at Mama Melrose's because we know that we like Italian food.
Yep.
Like, it's really hard to mess up Italian food. So we go and we get our chicken parmesan or whatever Steven wants to get. And yeah, you're getting good Italian food. I know that some people really don't like Mama Melrose's. They think it's overrated, but I like the feel of being in that restaurant. I think it's cute on the inside. It fits with that little corner in Hollywood Studios, and it makes me feel like I'm in a little Italy in a city or something, where I'm getting decent Italian food in a Disney park. So
yeah, I mean, the food is decent at best. It's not something that I would tell people you have to go there, but it is good, and I don't really leave there bummed that I ate there.
Right,
that's for
exactly,
sure.
exactly.
And they also have good cocktails too, and a good wine selection actually, which is nice. There's definitely some other places that I want to try when we go in the future, although I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. But I don't even think Hollywood Studios is on our list of places to go in October, which is devastating to me.
I've
It's
only
not.
because we will have a 10-month-old or 11-month-old,
Yeah.
and this park probably has the least to offer for her at that age.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when we want her to be able to experience Galaxy's Edge and really take it in and remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the other things in the other parks we feel like would be like Magic Kingdom, of course, and Animal Kingdom, which is my favorite park.
Right.
And we know that kids can really get a lot out of that because if for nothing else, we can go look at the animals and then
Right. And Epcot's really more
relax.
for us than her. So
Right. Because
yeah.
Epcot for us is all about the food and drink. So
Tell me about it. So I think, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some other places I want to try when we go back to Hollywood Studios, and I definitely think that the Brown Derby is one of them. It's based after the famous restaurant in Los Angeles with all of the um, silhouette pictures on the wall and famous actors and things like that. So I'd like to try that sometime. But I think next time we go, we'll hit up the Sci-Fi Diner just so that you feel like we're doing something that you want to do.
yeah, well, I think it'd be really fun. I know it's some people think it's gimmicky. Some people it's one of their favorite places to eat just because of the atmosphere and not necessarily because of the food. We've heard kind of mixed reviews on the food, so we'll have to check it out ourselves before we share what we think about the food. But the experience as a whole,
Yeah.
I've heard pretty good things about the atmosphere, so I think it would be worth checking out.
I guess I don't. If there's one thing I don't want people to think, it's that I'm a wet blanket. I know I sound like it a lot, but I hate drive-ins. I don't like going to them at all. It just feels like why would
Okay,
I
but
sit outside or in my car when I could just stay home?
part of the problem is last time we went to the drive-in, well, not last time, 2 times ago, you got eaten alive by mosquitoes because it was a hot, humid day.
Yeah, and the time after that, someone left their headlights on.
Yeah, so
So,
if we had lived in the 1950s, maybe you'd like drive-ins better.
well, maybe, except for all the emissions. I guess again, I sound like a wet blanket, and I'm sorry, but that's just kind of how things are. I don't really have much else for dining, but I do have a lot for things to do.
All right, why
And
don't you kick us off then?
yeah, basically the things to do section is like it's not an attraction, it's not entertainment, and you're not really going to eat. These are more just like shopping experiences, little magical areas that you can go to, maybe exhibits. And I'm going to start this off with One Man's Dream, which is an area right in Animation Courtyard. It's kind of by the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, and technically the area is called Walt Disney Presents, and it's a really cool little area that kind of reminds you of why you love going to Disney in the first place, which is everything that Walt Disney had envisioned and dreamed. It's a really, really cool area. There's a lot of stuff. Some of them are reproductions, like his desk and stuff, but there are a lot of things there that are commemorative of Walt Disney's life, and then how Disneyland and Disney World kind of came to be.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool. We had the opportunity to go to the Disney Family Museum in San Francisco.
I was going to say this.
Whoops.
As you were talking, I was thinking about that because it reminds me so much of that in San Francisco.
Yeah, but the San Francisco one is like so great.
Well, and it's a museum for that specifically. Right. So this is sort of just like a small little exhibit in Disney World to give you just a taste of that, whereas we were able to go to the Family Museum there in San Francisco.
So either way, it's a lot smaller and it's a quick walkthrough, and once you've done it once, you can basically kind of swing through and that'll be that. But there's a little show at the end. I think it's called One Man's Dream, and it's just a really cool little short video about Walt's life. And again, a lot of things that if you're a big Disney fan, you probably know this stuff already, but it's a nice little reminder, and it's fun and it's air conditioned, and it's just a nice little area.
Did you have any other things to do that you?
I have so many.
Okay, you keep going.
Just keep rolling with it.
Yeah, and then
All right.
I'll just chime in when I have things to add.
I really like to also check out where Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is, because it is an exact replica of the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. I have been there several times. I've never seen a movie in there, but it is gross. Not not the ride in Disney, but the actual Grauman's Chinese Theater is just gross.
Yeah, I was
So
very
put off.
yeah, when I went to Hollywood for the first time, I was expecting it to be this beautiful, magical place where dreams come
It's
true,
not.
and it was, to me, dirtier than Times Square. I was just surprised because I had these really high expectations for Los Angeles and Hollywood, and I saw the Chinese theater and I went to look at the handprints, and that part was cool. Like, I got to see the handprints from the Harry Potter cast and all of these wonderful, famous people, but it was just underwhelming. So I think the one in Disney World is actually better because it's so much cleaner and not as nasty.
Well, Hollywood Studios is great because you have Hollywood Boulevard and then you've got Sunset Boulevard going right up to center stage where the theater is, and it's just a clean version of what you would get in California.
Right.
So it's just kind of fun to hang out in that area. If you go to center stage right across the way from the theater, oftentimes they'll do a lot of cool photo pass stuff there. So check that out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a really cool area. Another fun thing is in the animation courtyard, they've got, I don't know if they still have it there, but they have like a Star Wars launch bay. And did they have it last time, or is it just like a cool off section? There was a lot that changed during COVID,
Yeah, I don't remember
so I don't
if
remember.
we did go in there, but they didn't have the meet and greets during COVID
Right.
because we still walked in there, and that's where I got some reprieve from the hot
Correct.
Florida sun in July
Yes.
for a few minutes.
So that's a cool area, but it's definitely not as cool as Galaxy's Edge. Like at the time, I was like, "Whoa, this is great," and it's nothing compared to Galaxy's Edge. So I guess I'm just gonna go right back in there because all roads lead back to Batuu. There, that is seriously a place. I don't think I can oversell it because I really think that it's as good as everyone says it is. But one of the things I love so much about that area, and I think besides the marketplace merchants that are there, probably my favorite thing to do is Doc Ondor's Den of Antiquities, and that is such a cool little spot. That's where you can get your lightsabers, you can get kyber crystals, you can get holocrons.
These words make sense if you've been there.
Right. So Doc Ondor's there. You can see him. He's a really cool giant animatronic. There are so many little Easter eggs in there, including the creatures from Attack of the Clones in the in the scene where Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme are chained up to the pillars. It's so cool, and that's seriously one of those places where I don't really buy much in there, except for I bought lightsabers in there before, but
And you bought every color kyber crystal.
yeah, I don't have the guts to keep buying red ones so that I can get the black kyber crystal.
Right.
But I shouldn't say the guts. I don't have the financial means to just keep on doing that.
Right.
But I love that area, and that is seriously a place that I could seriously spend all day in there. Just because of how cool it is. Like the merchant marketplace is great, and there's a lot of cool things there. I love the Targaryen toy shop or the toy maker. I love just all the little shops there are really, really cool, like the creature stall. But something about Doc Ondor's to me is just so special and so cool. It really is like, it's reminiscent of like the old Jedi temples. And just to be able to kind of have that and walk in there and shop lightsabers and look at all the products that are there, it's fun. A lot of it is ridiculous, and I never would buy it. Like $200-$300 busts of Palpatine, like I don't need that, but it's still really cool. And then of course, Droid Depot is great too. I've never built a droid, but I love that area. It's a lot of fun.
I actually think that would be fun. I think I'd like to build a droid.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it next time. Nope, we won't because we're not going there next time.
Next time we go to Hollywood Studios.
And then the only other thing I'd say about that area specifically is Savi's workshop is great, where you do build a lightsaber. If you have a chance to do that, check it out. It is super cool, and the experience is just pretty phenomenal. I think there have been some changes with COVID protocol, though, and I don't know how much you get to be hands-on. Like, I think last I heard, they actually build it for you, which is wildly disappointing. But did you hear about that?
I did. I
Yeah,
think
they
you're
like
the one that told me that.
put it together for you, which is a huge track.
Right, because they didn't want, which doesn't make sense. If you're taking it home,
I
why
know.
can't you touch your own lightsaber? I guess they don't want you like touching all the other pieces.
Right, because you get to pick out your parts.
Right. You get
So,
to create your own lightsaber piece by piece. So maybe
yeah.
that's why, but
So I mean, this isn't a Galaxy's Edge show, so I'm not gonna carry on about it too much, but that whole area is great. And for me, like, as far as things to do are concerned, just being there is amazing. So it's really cool.
yeah, and I actually have one thing in terms of things to do that I enjoyed the first time we went to Galaxy's Edge. And I don't know how many of you have ever downloaded the Play Disney Parks app where you can kind of interact with the parks on this separate app than the Disney app, where you can play games while you're waiting in the lines for the rides. You can play games and do challenges while you're in different lands and different areas. But I really enjoyed my time playing on this app in Galaxy's Edge because it would give you missions and you had to go to different places in Galaxy's Edge and find things and achieve these goals. So, all coming back to my competitive nature, I thought it'd be really fun to spend my day staring at my cell phone when I had spent all this money in the park.
Right.
But it was actually really fun because while we were waiting in the queue for Millennium Falcon, it was like looking out for these things as you pass these things, answer this question. And so I thought it was something engaging that could kind of keep me from just standing around in line, twiddling my thumbs for 90 minutes. It kind of gets you invested in the area of the park that you're in and getting you engaged with the park even more. So just beware your battery life on your phone if you're doing the Play Disney Parks app and the Disney app to use it to check the wait times and things. But I thought it was really fun, especially in Galaxy's Edge. I didn't really use it too much in any of the other areas or the other parks, but I had just heard so many people engaging with the Galaxy's Edge piece, completing these missions that I thought that was really fun.
I didn't do that actually.
You didn't, but you were soaking in the experience of Galaxy's Edge and just like
Right.
milking that for what it was worth.
That is not that we're going to do this because I don't really have the means right now, or I don't think the desire. But that's one of the big aspects of being on the Galactic Star Cruiser is interacting with your phone. And like you have to be on your phone for missions and to interact with like the captain and other crew members and stuff. I don't think I could do that. I think I would just get like irritated with all the messages I'm getting.
Yeah, it did start to get a little bit old, but like I said, I pretty much only did it while we were in Galaxy's Edge. So when we left Galaxy's Edge and headed over to Toy Story Land or back over to the Echo Lake area towards the center of the park, I didn't really use the app as much for that. And then the only other thing to do that I enjoy is just kind of hanging out on Sunset Boulevard while Steven rides the Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster. If I did not wait in the queue with him and take the exit route, then I just kind of hang out somewhere on Sunset Boulevard, grab myself a snack or a drink, and just relax. I think that area is just so pretty and so reminiscent of some of the aspects of California. Some of the pieces of it just feel so familiar to the Hollywood area. So I really enjoy just hanging out on Sunset Boulevard while I'm waiting for Steven to ride some of these thrilling rides that I don't do.
I'm with you on that. And this is kind of dining, but the Sunset Ranch Market is pretty cool over there too. We've eaten there a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's a fun little area. QSR food, not great, but it's still fun. I mean, that whole area is really nice. And like I said, it's like a cleaner version of Southern California. So that's a win for everybody.
Right.
There are some other really fun things about Hollywood studios that are outside of the gate. And I was actually able to experience some of this for the first time just because I didn't because I hadn't really been able to explore, like, before, when we first started going and it was my first times going, we just kind of went straight through the gates and just hung out in the parks. But one of the benefits of not going to a park one day, or spending, like, having a little bit of more free time on your hands, is we did that walkway from Hollywood Studios to Epcot. And I thought that was really cool.
It was really cool.
Um, it's not in Hollywood Studios, but it's a nice walk. And then there's, you can take the Skyliner, if you want to, and there's the Friendship boat, and of course there's buses and stuff. But the transportation area, I think, in Hollywood Studios is probably the best, because you have that awesome little walkway that I think goes, like, right by the Swan and Dolphin. You have the Skyliners, you have the boat. It's nice. It's really, really nice, actually,
Yeah,
there.
it is.
So I really appreciate that area too. And that's a fun thing to do. If, like, let's say, like, you're in the park and you just need a little break or something, like, leave and go ride the Skyliners for a little bit. Just take them for a joyride. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did that last time. We kind of resort hopped a little bit, and we'll talk about that on a different episode, just resort hopping and some tips about which resorts we like and which ones we went to. But getting on the Skyliner and just kind of taking a break and viewing more of the Disney property that you might not have seen before is a really fun way to break up your day and just kind of sit down and take a load off, because you can't always find a place to sit in Disney that's available, especially when it's really crowded. So finding a mode of transportation where you also get a view instead of just getting on a crowded bus where you might have to stand.
Oh, yeah.
It's worth taking the Skyliner or the boat or something, and just kind of taking a break.
Yeah, it's definitely so I'm definitely one of those people where I feel like I just need to live in every single moment that I'm given. And so if I'm in a park and if I have an opportunity to just keep on riding things and seeing everything there is to see, I will just go. But there's a lot of value in taking a quick minute, even if it's like a half hour to 45 minutes, and stepping away. And that's something we've done, and I really actually cherish that, because it does give you a minute to relax and to just take time away from the busyness of the parks and walking so much. And so, yeah, the Skyliners is a perfect excuse to do that, and you really get to see so much. It's fun.
And I
It's
think
really
it
fun.
gives you more energy for the second part of the day.
Right, it's like a recharge
Right,
kind
you
of
get a
thing.
little bit of a reset depending on where you're staying, or if you're staying on property. Sometimes people might go back to their resort or their room for a little break in the day, especially if you have kids or little ones or something. But if you are not staying close by to the park that you're in, because some of the areas of Walt Disney World property can be so spread out depending on where you're staying and which park you're in. These modes of transportation can be that little kind of getaway for a little bit to reset and then go back into the park and kind of
Yeah,
have fresh legs and be a little bit more rested.
except for the buses at night. You cannot rely on those.
Yeah, so the only other thing that I wanted to mention about Hollywood Studios is we haven't seen a nighttime show there in a really long time.
That's on me.
Yeah, because we were gonna see the Star Wars one on the Chinese theater there, but Stephen was like, let's try to catch the bus back to Magic Kingdom, ride one of the rides real quick, and then we can watch the fireworks over the castle. Well, unfortunately, we ended up waiting for the bus from Hollywood Studios to Magic Kingdom for close to an hour.
And because it was so late, we couldn't get back into Hollywood Studios.
Right. So it was
Which was
too late to get back into
stupid.
Hollywood Studios, so we missed that show. And because we had waited so long, we were like, the fireworks show is already starting.
Yeah.
We don't even have time if we get on the bus to get over there and ride anything. We would just be catching the end of the fireworks show. So
We did catch the end of the fireworks show, and we actually were able to go on Space Mountain.
We were
So,
right at
it
the
wasn't-
tail end.
Yeah, it wasn't the end of the world,
Right.
but yeah.
You have to manage your time well at the end of the day, because you cannot rely on the transportation being on time, buses most specifically, because anything can happen with those. But something like the Skyliner, unless it's a really long line, you can usually
Right.
kind of rely on that to be more on time
Well,
because they keep moving.
and that's one thing that we can certainly dig into later, but I don't know if I really am, especially in Orlando, if I'm a huge advocate of park hopping because I don't know. I mean, it depends on what the structure of your vacation looks like, and everyone has their own way of doing things. So just take it with a grain of salt. But because there's so much to do and see in each park, especially if you don't go very often and you are trying to maximize your time and have a great time in the park that you're in, just I wouldn't worry about park hopping. Because there's enough to do for everybody. And again, you can take a quick minute. Like pretty much every park you can head out and go do something for a little while and then come back.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say about park hopping with Hollywood Studios specifically is because Epcot is so close. Park hopping from Hollywood Studios to Epcot is a pretty common thing. My family used to always do a half day in MGM, aka Hollywood Studios, and a half day in Epcot. We would never take full days for those two parks until we got older when we could really appreciate Epcot for what it was worth. But the other thing is some of the parks close a little bit earlier. So Epcot and Magic Kingdom, I believe, stay open later than the other ones. So sometimes people will finish up in Hollywood Studios or Animal Kingdom and then want to stay out a little bit later to try to get their money's worth. So then they'll head over to those parks that stay open,
I
try
get
to
that.
catch a nighttime spectacular or catch a couple rides while the parks kind of empty out a little bit.
I get that. I totally get that. I think at this point, for me though, cutting out when the park closes, and if you want to get a little more time on your hands, go to Disney Springs,
Yeah,
go to a rooftop bar at the Coronado. Like there's a lot to do that isn't a gate, and then
right.
you'll save money throughout the day because you're not spending that extra money on, park hopping. So you can go for like that extra hour.
Right,
Again, to
exactly.
each their own. This is just sort of what my experience has been.
And that's what we typically do. We like to spend one whole day in one park. We usually try to go so that we can spend the entire day in that one park and make the most out of that park and maximize our time, which is why we're sharing these episodes with what our ideal days look like so that you can kind of see what our days are filled with when we go to these parks and how we try to maximize our time by choosing certain rides and certain entertainment and dining that really fits in with our schedule and that we can make happen all in one day realistically.
So I think that's just about going to wrap it up for us here at the Parks Academy. We really appreciate everyone who's been listening to us. This is our third episode, but we've already had some pretty big movement on social media. We have had a pretty good amount of downloads on our podcast already just in the last week or so. So we appreciate everyone who is checking us out. You can, of course, find us online at theparksacademypod.com. That's theparksacademypod.com. And we're also on Instagram at the Parks Academy. And we also we're transcribing a lot of our episodes and then we're putting them up on YouTube so that people can hear them that way. So if you don't really have a podcast player, you're not really using that, you can do it that way. And we're also in talks about maybe putting together some special extra content with like a Patreon situation. So we'll keep you updated on that as that all happens. We might do some, special bonus shows, maybe some like a Discord channel or something like that. So there's a lot that we are, wanting to do, but we can't really do it without a decent amount of, support from everyone and those who are listening. So as we grow and as we carry on with this, we are excited to kind of see what comes of it. And we're really looking forward to continuing on this journey. And next week, we are actually, I can just say it, we're going to be going over our ideal day at Epcot. And I'm really excited about that one. I'm buckle up because that could be like a 3-hour episode. There is so much to talk about there. And it's one of our favorite parks, and the dining section alone is probably going to take up far too much time. So again, thank you so much for listening to the Parks Academy. We've been having a great time, and we'll catch you next time.